Reddit. What's a time you did exactly what someone asked, out of pure spite?
They always say, don't take it personally. But when your boss humiliates you in front of the entire leadership team, it's hard not to. I'm a mid-level project manager at a mid-size consulting firm. We do process optimization for Fortune 500 clients. Translation: I wrangle impossible deadlines, uncooperative stakeholders, and endless spreadsheets for a living. I'm good at it. Not flashy, but reliable. And I used to like my job. Enter Gavin. He was promoted to director 6 months ago, parachuted in from another division with a results-driven reputation and a fondness for LinkedIn buzzwords. I kept my head down, figuring he'd either mellow out or move on. Wrong on both counts. At first, it was little things. He'd accidentally leave me off meeting invites. He'd correct my status updates mid-sentence in front of clients. He'd CC the entire chain on the tiniest questions. You know the type. I could have brushed it off until the meeting. It was a Friday afternoon leadership sync. We were presenting on a client project I'd been managing for 3 months, one of our biggest accounts this quarter. Everything was on track. The slide deck was pristine. I was ready. 15 minutes in, I was summarizing a milestone report when Gavin interrupted. Frankly, this isn't where we need it to be. If you can't handle the heat, maybe you should take a break. The room went dead quiet. I blinked. My VP frowned. Someone shifted papers nervously. I opened my mouth, then closed it. Anything I said would either sound defensive or insubordinate. So I smiled tightly and continued the presentation as if nothing had happened. But inside, something snapped. I'd been documenting Gavin's behavior for weeks. I had emails, screenshots, meeting notes. After that meeting, I stayed late at the office, tidied up the report, and sent it to HR. Then I drafted another email, this one for myself, requesting 2 weeks of stress leave. Paid, of course. Our policy explicitly covered it. I submitted it the next morning. Per your suggestion, I wrote in the request, I believe it would be beneficial to take a short break. Attached was a polite note to HR summarizing the public remark and its impact on my well-being. It was approved within hours. I packed up my laptop, set my out-of-office message, and left with one suitcase and a very smug grin. I wasn't about to spend 2 weeks stewing at home. I booked a last-minute trip to the coast. Spa days, long walks, a pile of good books, bliss. Meanwhile, back at the office, Gavin now had to present the full project progress to the board without the one person who knew it inside out. He had 3 days to prep. No one else on the team had my level of detail or patience. I heard the first whispers by day 4. A colleague texted me, board meeting was a disaster. Gavin's blaming team gaps. Oh, really? The text from my colleague wasn't the only one. By the end of that week, my phone was buzzing with messages. Apparently, Gavin had attempted to run the board presentation himself. It hadn't gone well. He didn't know half the metrics, one message read. Kept dodging questions about the project scope, said another. He literally used a screenshot from your old draft deck, a third chimed in. I sipped my iced latte and smiled at the ocean. Not my problem. I was on break. As requested. By the time I flew home, HR had scheduled a check-in meeting with me for my first morning back. Curious. I walked into the office that Monday looking refreshed, tan, and annoyingly cheerful. Gavin, by contrast, looked like he hadn't slept in a week. I nodded politely at him by the coffee machine. Good morning. He mumbled something that might have been hello or possibly go away. HR's check-in was interesting. They thanked me for raising concerns in a professional and well-documented manner. They acknowledged the board presentation raised further questions. I was invited to share additional feedback if I wished. Translation: they knew. And the board knew. And Gavin was now under formal review. Word traveled fast. By midweek, most of the leadership team was treating me with newfound respect, and Gavin with wary distance. Then came my favorite part. During a team sync, Gavin, clearly under orders, tried to smooth things over. "Glad to have you back," he said, forcing a smile. "I hope the break was helpful." I returned the smile, perfectly polite. It was exactly what I needed. "Thank you for suggesting it." Silence. Someone coughed. The junior PM next to me nearly choked on her water. Over the next month, things shifted. Gavin started asking for my input instead of undermining it. Passive-aggressive emails stopped. Public heat remarks vanished. Word was he'd been told in no uncertain terms to clean up his act or else. Eventually, a new director was quietly hired to support leadership across multiple projects. Gavin's responsibilities were reduced. Me? I got a bonus for exemplary project delivery under challenging circumstances. HR's wording, not mine. So yeah, sometimes you can handle the heat. And sometimes, you take a well-earned break and let it roast someone else for a change. If you've never been a grad student, here's what they don't tell you. The academic world runs on free labor and fragile egos. I learned that the hard way. I was a PhD candidate in one of those prestigious departments where they expect you to sacrifice your health, relationships, and firstborn child for the sake of knowledge. My thesis advisor, let's call him Dr. Marks, was the poster child for academic exploitation. Brilliant? Yes, but also lazy, disorganized, and utterly reliant on his grad students to do everything but breathe for him. At first, I was the eager newbie, grateful for the opportunity, determined to prove myself. I helped organize seminars, edited his conference papers, even managed his class when he traveled. All unpaid, of course. But over time, it got worse. Every meeting ended with some new favor. "Could you compile this grant data? Would you mind reviewing these journal submissions? Take the initiative, that's what real scholars do." He loved that phrase. I heard it so often it became a running joke among my cohort. Real scholars take the initiative. Translation: real scholars do my grunt work so I can go wine and dine visiting professors. By year 3, I was burned out. My own dissertation was gathering dust while I kept bailing out his messes. And every time I tried to push back, if you want strong letters of recommendation, you should demonstrate leadership. Classic academic blackmail. Then came the tipping point. One afternoon, after I'd stayed up all night proofreading a paper he'd forgotten was due, Dr. Marks emailed me. "Just a reminder, please prepare the slide deck for next week's departmental review. Take the initiative." That was it. No thank you. No apology for the 3 a.m. emergency email. Just another task dumped on my pile. I sat there, staring at the screen, equal parts exhausted and furious. And then, the idea hit me. If he wanted me to take the initiative, fine. I'd do exactly that. But not in the way he expected. You see, for months, the grad students had been whispering about how exploitative the department was. How we were unpaid teaching assistants, unpaid editors, unpaid administrators. We had emails, screenshots, chat logs, enough to paint a very ugly picture. So I started organizing. Quietly, carefully, I met with other students. We compiled evidence. We drafted a letter of complaint, not just to our department chair, but to the dean and the university's ombudsperson. And the best part? One of my friends in the journalism school had been looking for a story. A big one. I took the initiative and handed her gold. Once the letter and evidence packet were finalized, we sent it out. To the department chair. To the dean of graduate studies. To the ombudsperson. And thanks to my journalist friend, to the student newspaper, who was more than eager to run a feature on grad student exploitation in elite programs. I won't pretend I wasn't terrified when we hit send. But I also wasn't alone. Almost every grad student in our department had co-signed. It was time someone took the initiative. The fallout was immediate. First came the panicked all-department meeting, hastily scheduled by the chair. We take these concerns very seriously. We are reviewing policies. We appreciate the dedication of our graduate students. Translation: we got caught. Then came the private emails. Dr. Marks, of course, sent out a tone-deaf message to his advisees. I'm very disappointed some have chosen to air internal matters publicly. This does not reflect scholarly professionalism. I laughed out loud reading it. Scholarly professionalism, coming from the man who once made me book his vacation flights. Meanwhile, the article hit the campus paper. Front page. Multiple quotes, anonymized, from grad students about being overworked, unpaid, and leveraged with letter of recommendation threats. The administration couldn't ignore it anymore. An official inquiry was launched. Policies were suspended pending review. And, most satisfyingly, Dr. Marks was required to step down as department graduate coordinator. He couldn't retaliate without looking even worse, and everyone knew it. The next departmental review meeting was pure theater. Guess who was no longer presenting the slide deck? Guess who sat in the audience, stone-faced, while the dean addressed recent concerns about fair labor practices? Me? I sat front row, smiling, taking notes. Later, after the meeting, Dr. Marks approached me in the hallway. His face was tight, voice low. You've made a very serious mistake, he said. I looked him dead in the eye. I just took the initiative, Dr. Marks. Isn't that what real scholars do? He had no response. In the months that followed, our department implemented mandatory guidelines limiting unpaid labor expectations. TA and RA roles were formally defined. Grad students got clearer protections. Was the system magically fixed overnight? Of course not. Academia changes at glacial speed. But it was a start. And for me? I finally finished my dissertation without spending half my week ghostwriting grant applications for someone else. My letters of recommendation? I got them from professors who respected me enough not to treat me like a secretary. Sometimes the best way to obey is to do exactly what they tell you. Take the initiative, he said. So I did. Just not in the way he ever imagined. You know that moment when someone thinks they've won the breakup? Yeah, my ex really thought he did. So here's the deal. I'd been dating this guy, let's call him Brad, because of course it was, for a little over a year. Brad was a personal trainer at one of those trendy boutique gyms where half the people are influencers and the other half are there for the selfies. I wasn't super into the scene, but hey, free gym membership? I'm not stupid. Things were fine, until they weren't. Turns out Brad had been giving one of his special clients a little more than just deadlift tips. I found out the old-fashioned way, Instagram stories. You'd think a 34-year-old man would know better than to tag himself at a wine bar with the woman he told me was just a motivated client. But here we are. I confronted him. He gave the usual garbage. It didn't mean anything, I was drunk. You don't understand how much pressure I'm under. Yeah, bye. Now here's where it gets interesting. The gym had this weird couples membership policy. When you joined as a couple, one person was the primary member and the other was tagged to their account. Guess who was the secondary on Brad's account? Yep, me. When I told him I was leaving him, he got all smug and said, "Well, you can kiss your gym access goodbye. You're not allowed to step foot in there anymore." Now, I wasn't even thinking about the gym in that moment. I was thinking about keying his car. Don't worry, I didn't. But the way he said it? All arrogant and petty? Oh, it stuck in my brain like a bad pop song. 2 days later, I went in to clear out my locker. That's when fate intervened. The gym owner, Monica, was at the front desk. Now, Monica is a legend, 40-something, super fit, no nonsense. runs the place like a boss. And fun fact, she never liked Brad. She stopped me. Hey, heard what happened. You okay? I shrugged. I'll live. Just grabbing my stuff. Apparently, I'm not allowed in here anymore. Her eyebrows shot up. Brad said that. I nodded. Direct quote. She laughed hard, then leaned in. Tell you what. We've been thinking of starting a social media ambassador program. You'd be perfect. Free lifetime membership, a few posts a week, and let's just say Brad has no say over that. I almost hugged her. Cue petty revenge plan activating. I signed the paperwork the next morning. My first post? A pic of me in gym gear, smiling, captioned, "Back stronger than ever." Sometimes the best gains are the ones they didn't see coming. Guess who saw it? Guess who texted me in a rage? Brad. And that was just the beginning. Brad's text after my first post was pure gold. WTF do you think you're doing? You can't be back in the gym. This is against the membership rules. Oh, sweet summer child. I screenshotted the message and sent it straight to Monica with the caption, "Thought you'd enjoy this." Her reply? "Keep posting. He's on thin ice already." And so I did. For the next few weeks, I practically lived at the gym. Not because I was obsessed with working out, though I'll admit I was getting pretty jacked, but because there was something deeply satisfying about making Brad squirm. I posted everything. Post 1. Me doing squats with a big goofy grin. Caption. Sometimes you have to drop the dead weight. Post 2. Group class selfie with Monica and a few of the other trainers. Caption. Surround yourself with people who lift you up, literally and figuratively. Post 3. Me laughing mid-rep. Caption. Happiness is the best revenge. Every post got likes, comments, shares. And every time, Brad got more unhinged. He cornered Monica one day and demanded she revoke my membership. Her response, which she later gleefully told me, "She's an ambassador now. You can either deal with it, or you can go." Apparently, Brad chose poorly. His attitude worsened. Clients started dropping him. Who wants to train with a guy known for cheating on his girlfriend and trying to bully her out of a gym? His bookings thinned. His paycheck shrank. Meanwhile, I was thriving. I gained followers. Monica asked if I'd do a few promo videos. I even got a free pair of gym shoes from a local brand that saw my posts. The best moment? About a month after it all started, I walked into the gym and Brad wasn't there. Monica caught my eye and smirked. He's been let go. Too many complaints. I won't lie, I did a little happy dance in the locker room. To top it all off, Monica later told me they'd updated the couple's membership policy, so no one could be secondary anymore. Every member would have their own account and their own rights. She called it the Brad Clause. So yeah, Brad told me I'd never set foot in that gym again. Now, I practically run the place. And honestly, the sweetest part wasn't the free membership, or the posts, or even watching him get fired. It was knowing that every single time he opened Instagram, there I was, smiling, lifting, living my best life, on his old turf. Sometimes you don't need to lift heavy to crush someone. Sometimes, you just need to show up. I used to think living with a roommate would be fun. Like the sitcoms, girls' night, pizza, binge-watching shows together. Yeah, not so much. When I moved into my first real apartment after college, I found a roommate through a friend of a friend. Let's call her Claire. At first, it was fine. She was neat. Paid her share of the rent on time. But somewhere around month 3, the passive-aggressive notes started. Please rinse your dishes immediately after use. Milk is for everyone to share, not just you. It was literally my milk. If you use the stove, please clean all surfaces, even the parts you didn't touch. It was exhausting. I'm not a slob, but I'm also not a neat freak. I believe in lived in clean. Claire believed in showroom clean. The tension simmered for weeks, and I kept trying to smooth things over. I'd invite her to movie nights, bought a plant for the kitchen, even left her a latte one morning. None of it helped. Then came the final straw. One Saturday morning, I walked into the kitchen to find a brand new note taped to the fridge. If you can't keep your things organized, why don't you just label everything so I know what's yours? I stood there, coffee mug in hand, staring at the note. And I snapped. Okay, Claire. You want labels? You'll get labels. I spent the rest of the weekend at my favorite craft store and the dollar store, loading up on label tape, stickers, and markers. Then I spent Sunday afternoon in full petty mode. When Claire came home from brunch, this is what she found. Every fork and spoon in the utensil drawer labeled with my name. My mug collection labeled my mug on every side. The carton of milk, my milk. The salt and pepper shakers, property of me. The light switch in my room, my electricity. The couch cushion I usually sat on, reserved. Even my rolls of toilet paper in the bathroom, each labeled with a little My TP tag. I went all in. When Claire walked in, her eyes got wide. She put her bag down slowly and looked around the apartment. Are you serious? She asked. I smiled sweetly. Well, you asked me to label everything so you'd know what's mine. She opened the fridge. My containers were labeled. My butter was labeled. Even my water bottle had a sticker that said, "In case of doubt, mine." Claire stared at me for a long second, then muttered something about childish behavior and stomped off to her room. But here's the kicker, it worked better than I imagined. After the great labeling, the apartment got real quiet. Claire sulked for about 3 days. No more passive-aggressive notes, no eye contact, no polite hi when passing in the hallway. I wasn't bothered. In fact, the atmosphere was blissfully peaceful. I could drink my, labeled, milk and cook with my, labeled, spatula in peace. But the fun wasn't over yet. One night, I came home to find Claire sitting at the kitchen table surrounded by her own stack of labels. She'd decided to label everything she considered hers. Fine, she said, not even looking at me. Two can play at this game. Suddenly, we had an apartment full of tags. Claire's mug. Claire's olive oil. Claire's hand towel. Claire's couch blanket. By the next morning, our apartment looked like a bizarre museum exhibit. Friends who visited thought it was hilarious. One even joked, "Is this a kindergarten classroom or your kitchen?" But here's the thing, underneath the ridiculous surface, the situation had forced a change. For the first time in months, there was clarity. I knew what was mine. She knew what was hers. No more ambiguous expectations. No more snide notes about shared items. And, weirdly, it calmed the tension. Without realizing it, Claire had given me exactly what I needed. Clear boundaries. No more guilt trips when I used my own stuff. No more wondering if I was overstepping. Things stayed oddly civil for a few weeks. We basically operated as two parallel beings coexisting in the same space. The petty war faded into quiet tolerance. Then came the twist. One Saturday, Claire knocked on my door, a rare occurrence. I opened it, and she stood there looking sheepish. "Hey," she said, awkwardly. "So, I've decided I'm moving in with my boyfriend next month." I blinked. "Oh, okay. And, if you want, I can start taking down some of the labels." I smiled. "No worries. Honestly, they've kind of grown on me." We both laughed, a genuine laugh, for the first time in a long while. In the weeks that followed, Claire packed up her things and moved out. We parted on surprisingly good terms. After she left, I peeled off most of the labels, but I left one. The sticker on the light switch, my electricity. It still makes me smile every time I turn it on. And the moral of the story? Sometimes obeying out of spite leads to unexpected peace and a great story to tell at parties. When your daughter gets married, it's supposed to be one of the happiest days of your life. It wasn't for me. Because for 15 years, my mother-in-law had done everything she could to make me miserable. Her name is Barbara. I call her the queen in my head not because she's regal, but because she treats everyone like her subjects. When I married her son, I became the top target in her little court. She never approved of me. I wasn't classy enough, according to her. I didn't come from the right family. I worked instead of staying home. You name it, she criticized it. When my daughter got engaged last year, I foolishly hoped things would be different. After all, this was her granddaughter. Surely she'd want the best for her. I was wrong. From the moment we started planning, Barbara inserted herself into every decision. She vetoed the venue we loved because it was too rustic. She tried to overrule the caterer. She insisted the florist add more statement pieces, aka giant arrangements she picked out. But her favorite target was me. You should really wear something simple, she told me more than once. You don't want to overshadow the bride. I nodded politely the first time. The second time, I said, of course. By the fifth time, I realized what this was, yet another power play. She didn't think I'd dress inappropriately. No, she wanted to remind me that in her eyes, I didn't belong. I could have ignored her. But after 15 years, I was tired of turning the other cheek. So I decided to obey. Exactly. 2 weeks before the wedding, I went shopping alone. I found the plainest gray dress imaginable, high neckline, long sleeves, no embellishments. I paired it with simple flats and minimal jewelry. I looked like I was attending a business conference, not my own daughter's wedding. And then I made one more purchase: 200 disposable cameras. Barbara had also been micromanaging the photographer, insisting on certain posed shots, controlling the schedule. My daughter was too stressed to fight her anymore. But I had another idea. I handed out the cameras to the guests as they arrived. Each one had a little tag I'd written. Help us capture the day. Take photos of every special moment. Nothing staged, nothing missed. People loved it. They snapped pictures of everything before the ceremony, during the reception, in between the formal shots. I saw kids running around giggling with cameras. Aunts and uncles comparing their candid collections. Barbara noticed about halfway through the day. She asked sharply, "Who approved this?" I smiled. The bride loved the idea. And then, the fireworks began. Barbara's expression soured the moment she realized the cameras were everywhere. "They're ruining the professional shots," she hissed at me during the reception. "Not at all," I replied sweetly. "The photographer said they love having candid moments to mix in." That was the truth. I'd spoken with the photographer beforehand, and they were thrilled about the idea. More natural shots meant a better story of the day. But Barbara couldn't stand it, because candid photos meant she couldn't control how she looked. And Barbara, who'd spent the entire morning barking at vendors and snapping at bridesmaids, was starting to unravel. It didn't take long. First came the minor tantrum at the cake table. The bakery had provided a beautiful 3-tier cake, but it wasn't the design Barbara wanted. She'd changed her mind twice the week before. She began loudly berating the catering staff. Snap, snap, snap. 3 different cameras caught her red-faced, finger-pointing, mid-rant. Next came the dance floor. She cornered my daughter and demanded that the first dance include a family waltz, which my daughter had explicitly declined weeks ago. When told no again, Barbara stormed off and tripped over a power cord. For guests caught the whole graceless stumble on film. Then came the final blow. Barbara approached the DJ, trying to hijack the playlist to add more elegant songs. When he refused, per my daughter's request, Barbara marched to the mic, grabbed it, and began an impromptu toast/lecture about family values and how certain people had tried to ruin her vision for the day. She didn't name me. She didn't have to. The crowd stared, stunned. Multiple cameras flashed. Phones came out too. It was a complete self-destruction. And it was all being documented. The next morning, I woke up to dozens of messages. Oh my God, the pictures. Did you see Barbara with the mic? I got the cake tantrum on camera. Want me to send it? Turns out, many guests had already developed their film and were gleefully sharing the results online and in family group chats. By Monday, Barbara's carefully crafted image as the perfect matriarch had taken a massive hit. Her tantrums, her clumsy fall, her sour expressions during the ceremony, they were all preserved forever. She called me, furious. You orchestrated this. You set me up. I kept my voice calm. Barbara, I did exactly what you asked. I wore a simple dress. I didn't overshadow the bride. And the cameras? The guests just wanted to capture every special moment. Pause. You told me not to overshadow the bride, I added. I think the cameras showed who truly stole the spotlight. She hung up on me. I won't lie, part of me enjoyed the poetic justice. After 15 years of her games, this time she'd hoisted herself with her own pettiness. And my daughter? She loved the candid photos. They're her favorite shots from the day. Sometimes, obeying out of spite is the most beautiful revenge of all. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed these stories, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss an upload. And tell us in the comments, what's a time you did something out of pure spite? We'd love to read your stories.